So I'll first introduce Mirak. Mirak, our organization name, has literally been taken from miracle, which means the essence of ourselves. So we are putting in our heart and soul and creativity into solving a business problem at scale. We are the largest coaching and the most impactful leadership development company. There are a couple of offerings that we work with on organization are learning and development, coaching. We also do certification for training people to be coaches. So we are certified by ICF to do the same. We also undertake psychometric assessment, which support us in all these training and learning interventions. Some numbers to bring in the credibility. We've worked with almost 150 plus organizations and the coaches globally that we are associated with. All this we do at scale with the help of our own proprietary learning development platform. So all the coaching interventions and also the learning interventions are delivered through our platform, and the live cohort-based sessions that we do are usually available for the participants to access later. So our platform has helped us to deliver thousands of sessions in a month to the clients. It is helping us reach multiple clients at multiple times and helping us deliver at scale. I'm really glad to introduce today's speaker, Dr. Naga Siddharth. Thank you for agreeing to be here. Siddharth, it's a pleasure to have you in this session today. He's the CHRO and also the Vice President of NHRD. He's almost 20 plus years of experience in leading people, and not just people, cultural initiatives across multiple industries. His expertise is in driving business impactful results, and he's known for scaling companies and implementing strong processes, and also enhance competency, the culture, the business outcomes with respect to the organization that he has worked with. Few sectors that he has contributed in: technology, healthcare, retail, e-commerce, SaaS, and services. The first half of Naga's career he spent on in large tech MNCs, and the second half is sort of managed as a CHRO, HR leader in the organizations. He's also committed to giving back to the society. So he's done a lot of pro bono consulting, right, with the organization who seek help or need business help. He's passionate about leader member interfaces and also performance management, OKRs. These are just a few words to describe Siddharth, while I would request him to actually take us through his journey himself, right? And also let us all come together and talk about with respect to cultural intelligence, right? And understand and learn from him and actually collectively do this together in this session. So welcome, Naga, all yours.
Super, delighted to be here. Very exciting to know about the stuff that you guys are doing on a product platform for coaches and learning. Also, hi to the audience. It's probably most of us are joining from India, so it's good evening. Chai and biscuit time is over. And of course, wonderful Chandana and Trishika for kind of coordinating this, and Chandana for being relentless on getting this done. So delighted to be here. I'm here on my personal capacity as a HR professional, CHRO, etc. Thanks for the very kind words in introduction. I'm basically a business guy who incidentally does HR and everything else to do with performance. So I'm not sure this is getting. Are you able to see me on the screen, or is it someone else who's being seen on the screen? I'm getting a sense your video is getting pinned. Shika, can you just check that? When I speak, is my video coming on your screen?
We can say you, Siddharth. You are, yes, you're on.
Sure, because I didn't want a situation where, it's all recorded and then finally it's like, I'm nowhere visible. It's only the audio and no video. Okay, cool. So delighted to be here. I've been a coach, or at least I started learning what not to do in coaching almost 18 years ago. And as a part of my job basically is to configure stuff, to configure organization systems, people, processes, human processes, way beyond what usually is being done, but to actually empower organizations and unlock that potential. The background that you see of mine is my website. It's called unlocking.in, because I was reflecting over my career and I was thinking, what have I been doing? And I figured out it's largely been unlocking potential, unlocking performance, unlocking culture. So it's a lot around unlocking. So that's what I've done. Done some deep studies in the area of discretionary effort. We'll come to that shortly. And so Shikha, do you want to ask me a couple of questions, anything on your mind? Or I can kind of go ahead with a small little thing of what I have on my mind.
Yeah, I think we can start with the basics that we have in mind, right? What is cultural intelligence all about? And yeah, I think
Sure.
from there for everybody's benefit.
So in Spencer and Spencer, if you originally take the book, okay, which is one of those original root books of competencies, you find a competency called organizational awareness. Organizational awareness is very, very close to what is called cultural intelligence. Interestingly, I went about trying to find out what is cultural intelligence and intelligent cultures. Okay, so there's a difference and a very vast one at that. Cultural intelligence is around organizational awareness. Okay. Now, if I were to look at that, it basically means, am I able to go into an organization and pick up the cues, pick up how do I get things done, and be successful at whatever needs to be done. Okay. Whereas intelligent cultures are basically cultures that value learning, value updation, value skill upgradation, value a lot of those things, right? And basically have a lot of weightage or leaning towards intelligence, which is celebrated and kind of amped up in the culture. If one were to look at just purely cultural intelligence, it won't actually take organizations anywhere, right? So if you take any organization, be it business or non-business and so on, the fundamental thing is that the organization's got to perform, right? And the organization performs pretty much through employees, through human beings, okay? Even if you have AI, you have a human being behind the AI asking the right prompts, configuring the right data sets, so on and so forth, right? So any organization, if you're talking about performance, we are talking about what is called observable behavior. Okay, that is the unit of performance. You take, the brain. You always say the one cell or the one unit of the brain is called a neuron. If you take a kidney, you say one unit of kidney is called nephron. If you take the heart, you say one thing is that cardiac fiber, right? So all these behave similarly, and they are the building blocks, basically, right? Or amino acids are the building blocks of any protein, or DNA and RNA and all that, right? So what, as HR professionals, as people performance professionals, super important to understand what is the building block of performance, because we are all here for performance. Even if you are a coach or trying to be a coach or not trying to be a coach or trying to be a trainer or a learning facilitator or a learning disruptor, you are only trying to do one thing, which is focus on performance, right? So it's important to understand what is performance. Performance is not rating, performance is not appraisal, performance is not anything else. Performance, even if it is technical performance, it is observable behavior. Having understood this, so the next question is, what do we do about our observable behavior? Observable behavior has to happen in a context, right? And that context is the thing that, whether you call it out or you don't call it out, exists in an organization, right? Some organizations call out the culture, right? They say these are our cultural values, and hence our culture is this. It's a different story whether that is true or not, but at least you have it on the wall, right? The biggest transition in an organization is the wall to the hall of the culture. Often it is on there on the wall, okay, and that's the end of the story, right? So it is on the wall and that is all, right? So if you actually go a little deeper into the cultural moorings, There's always one which is the espoused culture and one is the practiced culture, right? And if you're looking at actually engineering culture to help performance, which is our final, which is basically the root cause of all of this, what becomes important is this entire piece around unlocking intelligence. Okay. And this is coming up in a book that I'm writing, my 6th actually. It's around having an organization that is culturally intelligent. Okay. Which means you're actually unlocking individual potential, individual performance at different levels in the organization, where every person who's working in an organization feels empowered and that person is able to do even more than they're required. Here, I'm very, very gently, including this concept of what is called discretionary effort. Let's say, you and I were to run a small little shop or a little restaurant or a cafe, right? I'm just trying to bring it to a very small scale. What do we basically want? We want our employees to come to office every day and want to do more happily, right? So if you talk about anything like engagement, you talk anything about happiness, you talk about satisfaction, blah, 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 right? You have half a dozen certifications these days. The final promise or the promised land is somewhere not defined in any of them. Okay, yeah, I might say that I have a trusting score of X or Y, or I have a trustworthiness score of whatever, or I have an engagement score of whatever. If I were to ask, so what? In a very business transactional way, right? Assume I am not going to get swayed by all the HR words that are going to be thrown at me, but I am just going to sit there in front of my cash box and say, Acha, okay, mil gaya, engagement score 90 on 100 mil gaya, or I got that. So what? Right? Why should I spend all this money? Right? The responses can be, oh no, you don't understand these things, etc. Okay, or no, there's no point of talking to you, or you need to have a human element, etc., etc. Very preachy kind of stuff. But then nobody actually comes and says, this is what you'll get. Okay, and that is what prompted me to go deeper and do a deeper study around finding out what is this thing called discretionary effort. So if you see discretionary effort, there are two words in it. One is effort. Now, effort, when it is observable, becomes observable behavior and is nothing but performance, right? Even if you see Victor Vroom, he spoke about, effort is equal to valence into instrumentality, IVE, right? So as long as you're latching onto effort, you got something good. The first word is discretionary, which is much like discretionary spending. I want something versus I have to do something, right? If it is I have to do something, like for example, when we go into an MBA college, 200 kids with starry eyes looking at us, and the first question I ask is, how many of you came here and how many of you were sent here, right? That's when the penny drops. They are like, right? So many of them were like dragged by their collars, figuratively, by the placement cell or whoever, right? Nahi to attendance nahi milega, right? So in an organizational context, is your above and beyond effort going to be discretionary or forced, right? If it's forced, well, you're going to fall into all those traps that companies regularly fall into. Sorry. So if you look at discretionary effort, my next question was, hey, I'll stop this monologue very shortly, right? So if you look at discretionary effort, my next question was, okay, what are the precedents of discretionary effort? There is a beautiful concept called role efficacy in India, which was created by Dr. Uday Parikh. He had based it on the work of Khan and so on. And then he had also looked at role efficacy, role stress and so on. And I was very curious on what creates discretionary effort. Because if you know how to set your expectations, which is nothing but a role, you're going to have people wanting to do more willingly, right? You don't have to kind of do deep psychotherapy for it, or you don't have to, throw parties every second week, all right? And research clearly shows that you can't get ongoing discretionary effort by having extrinsic sources of motivation. The research is very clear. Okay. So how do you go about this? Then I figured out, okay, there are a couple of things that are condition precedents for discretionary effort. The first is skill and knowledge. A person who doesn't have the basic skills and knowledge to do the job, discretionary effort gaya tel lene. Okay, nahi hoga. Not going to happen because that guy, person is bothered about survival rather than doing more. Okay, or is blissfully, you have a South Indian say, Kalimann, right? Is sitting somewhere, a wet ball of clay, right? No, forget discretionary effort, far cry. First, skills and knowledge. The second most effective causation element is something called role making, which is very powerful. So in role making, you have elements of influence. So if I can influence people around me, my chance of doing something above and beyond is going to be higher, right? Or my wanting to do something like that is going to be higher. If I can collaborate with folks around me, my chance is going to be higher, so on and so forth. So role making is coming out as a very clear indicator. At the same time, I also figured that the results actually showed that there is an in-role behavior, right? I do what I'm supposed to do to keep my job. And that gets improved if you have role centrality, or a person feels that the job that I'm doing is actually meaningful to this company. So by actually working on these two elements, by figuring out how expectations are set from an individual, it's quite easily possible to have a culture of intelligence, right? So from culturally intelligent to intelligent culture to culture of intelligence, where you can actually think about an organization as a pool of consciousness or intelligence, where there are multiple, sparks flying from here to there and everywhere, and people are actually actualized, right? I think Supreme Court also has been, doing a lot of live streaming. At this point, I'll say that's all, my lord.
Thank you, Siddharth. I think that was quite insightful. Anybody wants to ask any question, wants to bring in anything, have any specific query with respect to what Naga brought in here in this discussion? You can raise your hand or you can put the thing in the chat if you have a question. Yes, Sridhar.
Hi, Sridhar.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, really very fluent, and you have shown that it is possible that one can keep the audience engaged. Can you hear me? Oh, am I audible?
Loud and clear.
Dr. Siddharth, you have showed that one can freely communicate with the audience without the help of even PPT. That's really a good thing. I was just probably thinking that you are about to come to probably Daniel Pink and intrinsic motivation in discretionary efforts and purpose, autonomy, and mastery. Probably you might be coming there. When you spoke of discretionary effort, it's really, really, really good. You have started very well, I must say, in raising our expectation. Please go ahead. Only one thing. Culturally intelligent organization, intelligent culture organization. When you say culturally intelligent organization, the emphasis is on intelligence. Culturally intelligent. Whereas intelligent cultural organization means there are many cultures. Office, I choose the intelligent culture. You are trying to qualify the culture there. In this case, you are trying to qualify intelligence here. In the first case, you are trying to qualify the intelligence. That's what I could find out to my limited. But you are keeping me engaged. Please go ahead. It's good.
Thanks on the PPT piece. When I was in HCL, my CEO Vineet Nair, the employee first, customer second guy, he used to tell us, he used to say, if there's a father who's picking up his newborn baby, right, is he going to make a PowerPoint presentation? Right, that was a direct question he asked. He said, when you go to customers, why do you need a PowerPoint presentation? It's got to come from within. Either you know it or you don't, right? And if you know it, you'll keep people engaged. He said, that's your problem. You got to fix it. So probably somewhere that's rubbed off. Credit to Vineet. Hey, Rupa, you want to ask a question?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Naga, for giving this perspective. So this subject is very close to my heart. I have kind of worked in half a dozen startups in my career so far. And they say that it's easy to build a culture in a startup rather than in a mature organization. But over a period of time, what I've experienced it is, and you rightly said that you start with a vision, and then over a period of time, that vision about how you want to build the culture within that organization, that keeps shifting, and then you don't know what has happened. But in my own understanding and within the perspective that I hold, I think there are two factors that motivates anyone to go beyond and do more, do that discretionary effort, is when there is a good match of ability and opportunity. Within these two factors, at times you see that colleagues are able, but they don't get the opportunity. And in some cases, there is an opportunity, but there is no ability to deliver. Like the example that you gave, the person doesn't know what he needs to do. So forget discretionary, it will be basically even survival becomes critical. So these two factors, according to me, and I've kind of tried to follow this, or I keep remembering these two factors every time I see someone going beyond what they're supposed to do, or trying to deliver an exceptional performance, because both these parameters are coming hand in hand. The other aspect is the Maslow's theory of motivation. Where am I in that order? And despite being at the first 2 or 3 levels, I still see that those factors are essential for someone to do better. Let's say somebody who's starting the career and their focus is just to start earning the basic salary so that they can buy a house or a car or a roof over their head. You see a discretionary effort coming there also. And as you go to the higher order, maybe the motivation levels change. For someone, it could be a title. For someone, it could be compensation. Or someone, it could be an exposure. But it is prevalent, at least in the first 3 layers. So these are the two thoughts I kind of thought I should share. I'll be happy to hear your feedback on this.
No, basically, I don't have feedback on anything. Though, yeah, I do. I made a note: ability and opportunity. Interesting approach. Because ability is talking about skills and knowledge. In fact, opportunity has a very interesting approach, which is opportunity could be, how do I define opportunity? One is autonomy. If I have everything else and I don't have autonomy, gone case, right? If I have autonomy, if I'm able to look at role making in its sub dimensions, right? Am I able to influence? Am I able to etc., etc., then I definitely have an opportunity. Yeah, but then, yeah, skills and knowledge are absolutely required and so on. Yeah, very interesting. And I'm not so much a big fan of Maslow's hierarchy, because I personally don't see it as a hierarchy. It's interesting to see those factors, but I'd say a spider diagram of those factors, right? Some of those factors are high, some are low. There could be folks who actually, I mean, to get to the highest, as Maslow has spoken about it, self-actualization, or doing it without, doing it more for the purposefulness, or, without expectation, right? There are folks who actually reduce the need for everything else, and bam, they're there, right? It is what is probably called Tyaga in the Indian context, right? I completely let go of everything else. My need for everything else goes, limit tends to 0. And then bam, I'm at the self-actualization level. And hence, I have my own thought process about whether it's a hierarchy or it's something else. It's an area under the curve, probably.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rupa. Thank you, Sridhar. Anybody else wants to?
Yeah, before that, I just want one disclaimer. Of course, I complimented you, congratulated you for doing it without PPT, but disclaimer is, I don't hate PPTs, honestly speaking, because Jeff Bezos kept coming all this. Of course, audiovisual has a role to play. There is a reason why audiovisual is important. Please go ahead.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you, Siddharth. Okay, so until anybody else asks, I will ask a few questions that we got as a part of
Actually, let me jump in here before that,
Sure.
Shikha. So
Yeah.
one nice video, if you've not seen, you should watch is of Dr. Sumantra Ghoshal on YouTube, which is called The Smell of the Place. Beautiful structure, beautiful framework. He talks about, how, a certain culture makes people want to behave in a certain way, right? He refers it in a very physical sense to walking in the forests of Fontainebleau in France, and he says the air is so crisp and fresh and everything, you feel like running and jumping and doing all that. And then he says downtown Calcutta, because that's where he was from, and he says in the midsummers, I mean, it's sweaty, it's tiring, and it's so sultry. And he says, I just feel like sitting at home with the AC on. And then he gives a four diagram structure around how to build a culture and so on. And he says, as companies, we typically build systems and processes around control and compliance and so on. And think about that person at the bottom of the pyramid. He only sees constraints above him, right? You want to go here, you want to do something else, constraint, take approval, right? You think of expressing somewhere, no, compliance, right? And then you expect, performance to blossom. All the best, right? So, name of the video, Rajni, is Smell of the Place. Smell of the Place by Sumantra Ghoshal. One second. Let me see if I can show the video so that Ghoshal, Smell of the Place. It's a little old video. So this is the video. Okay, this is the video. If you're able to see this, that's the video. Sure. You had a couple of questions, Shikha.
Yeah, one of the most basic one was how do organization actually go about setting a baseline for measuring the cultural intelligence, right, which exists within the organization and its leader, and what can be the best practices to improve upon the same, or is there a set process which can be taken up to ensure it's improved?
I don't want to share any rhetoric stuff, right? ऐसा ही करना है, ये अच्छा है सेहत के लिए types, right? Because we all know it, right? If you're on this call, you already know stuff, right? And the kind of audience you invite is like testament to that. Instead, I can share what an experiment we ran in a company, the SaaS company. So, the idea was I wanted to see what actually causes discretionary effort. Okay, simple and plain. What can I do, or what can HR do? What can the company do to drive discretionary effort? So went and asked the founders, what do you really want to create? Founders said, when we were small, when we were 10 people, everyone used to wake up and come to office, and they wanted to do more for the company, right? So there were two elements. One is wake up and want to come to office. Second is do more, right? We said we'll test both. So we actually made a 110 item questionnaire and kind of told people, hey, this is some fundamental first principle stuff we are doing. Don't just ignore and do inky pinky ponky on the instrument, but please kind of respond, right? 70% of the company responded, which is very decent. So we had everything from, David Rock's scarf to Octopus to everything else in it, right? To figure out, hey, what is actually causing discretionary effort? And then as Y variables, we had quite a few, like, I'm happy at company X, I'm satisfied at company X. When I wake up in the morning, I feel like coming to company X, right? Stuff like this, all the possible Y variables. And then we also slipped in one more, which was a discretionary effort one, which was, I feel like coming to company X and contributing even more, right? Which is basically, I want to do more for the company. And we sent this out, and then we found a business analyst, a data analyst hanging around somewhere. So we kidnapped him into the HR department and got some regression done, right? So so that we can go back to business and say, acha dekho ye stats. So we did that and we figured out, the meaningful stuff only came for the discretionary effort. And there were some six basic drivers or causal agents. Correlation, we had half a dozen, or dozens actually, but that doesn't help. So we just looked at this and we figured out it was largely manager driven. Okay. For example, my manager treats me with respect at work. My self-respect is intact at work. My manager appreciates me regularly. Okay. The quality of feedback I get from my manager is valuable. Okay. Stuff like this, manager, and finally, of course, one or two other organizational stuff. So we took these 6 and then we told the organization in the town hall saying we are going to only measure these 6 for the next 1 year. Okay. And the catch being, we said, unfortunately, engagement surveys have often been mistaken for whistleblowing surveys. Okay. So you don't need whistleblowing mindset in an engagement survey. If you're trying to figure out how to fix something, I better know who's telling what. Right? I'm not going out there to find fault and shoot people. Right? Of course, there was a fair bit of pushback for that, even from the founders who said, no, nobody will, express themselves, etc. We said, okay, then there's a deeper cultural and a trust problem here, which means people are saying, though my founders say this, if my founders are asking me for feedback, but if I give it, I get shot in the head. Okay. So I said, that's a deeper problem you need to fix. So, okay. So finally they said, okay, go ahead and do whatever you want, right? And we went back and we told everyone saying, here's the problem. If there are 20 people and there are 2 low scores on a scale of 5, and then there are 18 fairly good scores on a scale of 5, 4 plus, 4.25 plus, what's the general, propensity of HR person to do is, acha yaar, 2 log hain, they're not happy, छोड़ दो 18 तो बढ़िया है ना, let's move to the next team, right? Even when you do an analysis and then you figure out 6 months later that those 2 unhappy people were the 2 team leads in that team, they too leave, the team collapses, right? So you can't do anything out of this so-called obsession with confidentiality and anonymity, right? You got to actually act upon it. So what we did is confidential but not anonymous. We ran this surveys every quarter. 33% of the company would get every month. And then at the end of the quarter, you had 100% data. And then we fed it back to managers. And we said only feeding it back to managers is only going to create unhappiness. Right? You're not so good. You're not good. You're not good. I mean, you don't get anything. So then we upskilled managers with a 1-day coaching capability thing that I ran. Right? The crux of coaching. Yeah, right. Not taking 28 competencies and telling them all that, but very simple hands-on coaching. And within 2 quarters, we figured significant upward spiral of scores. So as long as managers were becoming better coaches, we didn't tell the managers as coaches and all, because this entire coach thing sometimes in India has 2 unwanted spin-offs. One is Integral Coach Factory, which is Indian Railways. The other coaching is IIT, IIM coaching, okay, or even 7th standard CBSE coaching. So we said coaching ke baare mein nahi baat karenge. We just said managerial skills of conversations. Okay, so conversations are like less scary for managers. We did that. And then as this kept improving, we figured out we've got to also appreciate managers who are doing a good job. So we had a managerial scorecard. We said, hey, are you doing, at least one-on-one with your team member every month? 20 marks for that. What's your quality of feedback score given by your team member in the last 3 months? That's 20 marks of score. Stuff like this. We had a transparent dashboard and we made it public among all the managers. So we said, okay, at least know who among you is doing a great job.
Right.
Right? And that helped. So unlocking culture basically means that every one person's got to want to do more. And then you set up the context for doing that better. Right? So this is a hands-on stuff. We used statistics, we used psychometrics. skilling. We used a lot of OD practices like executive sponsorship, etc. And it took us 18 months. And I'm talking about a SaaS startup. So a startup is a very difficult place to actually build culture. It's a very easy place to lose sight of culture, because a company that's constantly running after a runway basically means how much money you have for how many more months, right, before you shut down. That's all. That's what it means brutally, right? And still, if you're building culture in such a context, it means it's driving business.
Sure, makes sense. But like you said, it is an effort which takes time, right? It took you almost 18 months or so to run through it and to actually get to a conclusion of if this is really helping, right? It is getting where the intent was.
Not
right?
really, not really, because in those 18 months are basically 6 quarters, right? So quarter on quarter, you get feedback, you get numbers. And the beauty of numbers is you're constantly either going up or going down. And you at least know it. It's not like this confidential thing.
Sure. So, what I'm also hearing is in this, there was as much a part of the leaders or the managers as there was of the HR, right? Or the organization who took a call of this is how you should be doing it, right? So, as a leader, what was sort of, their contribution in building this up, right? In getting the organization to the place where you could see change quarter on quarter within the organization.
A great question. What we do is figuring the configuration out, helping the leaders succeed. Okay. I am perfectly fine standing at the back and saying I didn't do anything. Because finally everybody knows who did everything in terms of configuration, the strategy, upskilling people, hand-holding, etc., right? It's always more helpful to get change done when everybody else thinks they're running the change versus they're sitting and judging the change. So all that we did was we tried to get people working together. We got people to contribute. We got people to celebrate, etc. Basically said, HR to kuch nahi kiya. We just kind of put some numbers and we found that business analyst who did some analysis. That's all. We didn't do anything. And then, but once they saw stuff working for them, then they would actually ask for more. See, it's a sales problem, right? HR sometimes has a sales problem. So you got to sell. Don't sit there expecting, having this entitlement mindset saying, oh, I'm at the table, I'm under the table, I'm over the table. Forget it. It's a sales problem. You got to sell your stuff, right? Because unlike finance, we don't have like the statutory thing, right? Unless the CFO signs, the balance sheet is not going anywhere. Right? So in terms of that enforcement compliance thing, we are a little far away. So you got to sell. That's the other option.
Sure. And how much of this, was sort of like you're saying, sales to the internal stakeholders, right? That this is what you will do, and they agree and do it, right? What would it take for a HR person to actually do with conviction, right? Is there any
what would it take? What person? I lost those 2 words.
The HR or the person who's driving this initiative to actually convince all other stakeholders, including the leaders, to actually come in and do it, because it will take some time for the results to show. Before that, they'll have to put in their.
You're actually putting words in my mouth. So there's a difference between showcasing and showing off. Okay. So I'm being super aware that I shouldn't, cross the line there. But anyway, in terms of self-disclosure, I have been fortunate to be mentored by Dr. Marshall Goldsmith for, I think, 15, 16, 17 years now. One of the things that he hammers me around is, I mean, think of yourself as a shoe salesman, right? It's your problem to sell. It's not the other person's problem to buy. Right? A shoe salesperson can't go out and meet customers and say, I have this, huge target. Why don't you buy from me? Or, don't you should be buying from me, right? It doesn't work, right? You're a salesperson. It's your problem to go and sell. I think that's the crux. And that's also the solution, right? You got to sell. Go and do whatever it takes to go and sell. If you got to get better, get better. If you got to go and catch them at the right moment, go catch them. If you got to figure out friends of theirs who are friends of yours who need to go and talk to them, figure that out. But don't sit in one place and say, why isn't that fellow buying from me? Just means you're bad at sales.
Sure.
No feeling sorry for yourself and saying he didn't buy. It just means you're bad at sales. Make peace. In fact, I put together, I think 8 or 12 of these for HR folks and ran it for CII once. It's called the Seago suite of products. It's a Siddharth Goldsmith suite of products. So what Dr. Marshall does is he does a lot of these, uses a lot of these things for executive coaching, right? And I figured out all this is very helpful for getting things done as HR guys. So put that together and ran it as a program. So Shika has something. Shika is saying something.
No, I'm just saying if anybody has any questions, they can just put it on the chat or they can raise their hand and ask it if they want to contribute in case people mix it up.
At a point in time, the only question people will have is when is this ending? So before we go to that, we should close this session.
That will happen. Yeah, I heard somebody.
Yeah, this is Maria. Hi.
Hi, Maria.
Hi, I joined late. I just joined around 5 minutes back. I'm so sorry. But yeah, I really had some questions to ask you. So my questions are like, in case I, as a corporate trainer, I join NHRD, will it really help me gain more visibility in terms of, getting exposure to like the HR managers or CHROs? Will it help?
That was definitely an out of syllabus question, but I don't know if I'm allowed to give an out of syllabus answer here. Okay, there are multiple organizations at play, there are multiple interests and conflicts of interest, etc., etc. But you can always ping me on LinkedIn and I can answer that. Okay, I like Azharuddin, I'll just kind of do that and let the ball pass to the wicket keeper.
Sure.
But great question, thanks. But short answer, not only limited to NHRD, right? Including but not limited to, right? I think it's a great idea to always get in touch with people because just like any business that happens, people are the folks who create performance. People are the guys who buy, buy or sell, right? So it's a great opportunity to always meet people. So.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
I did see lots of thumbs ups coming from Kuljit. I said something absolutely right, or he wanted to do something else, and then he gave me all those applauds.
I just President, you are passing ball to the wicket keeper. Smart move.
Yeah. Some of these are probably not the right things to do, so I just kind of didn't want to answer.
Worth it. Every game has a principle.
Yes, Sridhar, you have something to add? Hello? Sridhar, we cannot hear you.
Who?
Now I'm audible. Back once again.
Sridhar.
Siddharth sir, congratulations. Because in cricket in terms, it is called well left actually. A ball which you don't have to play, you have left it good. I mean, since we are not interested, that's besides the point. But now we are talking of psychological safety. Probably I have not used the word, but still it is the buzzword today. Psychological safety. So it should be within the syllabus. If I ask this question, what is your take on work from home here? Because that is the one which is bothering. For the simple reason, I do meet some of my cousins, their children, and other things. They have worked really hard, but especially women, they feel working from home is which they have been doing all along. I'm talking of big software giants. I'm talking in the country. And they are all being summoned to the office. Although during COVID days, they were working 14 hours, 15 hours. Mind you. So that I believe, this is my honest opinion, that I believe the immediate bosses, probably led by the HR, obviously, they are not trying to be horses for courses kind of. They are trying to apply the same object to all the people. So suppose I have 10 people in my team. Should I say that I mean, there's no work from home for anybody. You've got to come. Even for half an hour, you come and then go back. Come, sign, go back. That's what my cousin's daughter is doing in one of the very big software firms sometimes. So these things can change it. But whereas in LinkedIn, we find day in and day out, work from is the order of the day. If you insist on coming to office, be assured that you're likely to lose that person. That's what LinkedIn, many of the articles we read. Why this contradiction? Why can't we apply on case-to-case basis instead of a blanket to my entire team of 10 people? Obviously, the contribution levels are ABC, is it not? If I have 10 people, can't I apply? This is my, what is your take here?
Yeah, I think we'll unraise your hand because it might attract attention.
Yeah, since once I spoken, yeah,
Sure.
yeah, I have no idea.
Apparently, I think it was Ram Jethmalani who had said, try convincing, otherwise confusing. Third was corrupting the thought process. Let us keep it that way. So let me try the second one. Okay, in trying to answer your question. There are two ways to look at it, right? If I'm an investor and I'm running a company, or if I'm a CEO, there are very clear investors who are asking for a return in investment, right? And I'm running a business. I want performance, I want outputs, okay? If I find it is not happening because of work from home, I am absolutely within my brief to call people back to office, okay? And interestingly, somebody asked, why does Zoom have a large office somewhere? It is a 20-story office or something, right? The fact is, we are human beings. We've been working from office for long, and hence it is nothing wrong or ridden with guilt to actually ask people to come to office. And I also believe it is not a politically right or politically wrong thing to say, please come to office, productivity is gone. Because finally, it's a business. It is not some activity for fun, okay? There are people who will get affected positively. There are people who will get affected negatively in any change, right? You have state elections and central elections on 2 different days. There'll be people who will be positively, negatively impacted. You have it on the same day. There'll be okay. So anything will have a positive and negative. So I'm not going to dwell into that. The other piece is, believe it or not, there are companies today which are saying I'm absolutely remote. I was interviewing a CEO yesterday, and the podcast is going to come out probably in a month or so. And this person said, Sidhu, because my question was, work from home is so async, so much about written remote work, right? It's not about contact the way it has been made out to be. How is it even helping and what's happening? So his response was, you know what, the maximum attrition reason I have is work from home of people who can't adapt to work from home. So you have other set of companies who are losing people because of work from home. And you have a set of companies which are losing people because of work from office. Okay. And, you have people like Elon Musk and so on who are calling it out and saying, hey, you know what, my company needs you to be sitting there talking to people around you, collaborating, because out of collaboration comes, come more ideas, come more
brainstorming.
And if you actually see the COVID generation of young professionals who come out, they're actually struggling today, right? Because they've not had in-person mentoring. They've not how do elephants, or a very weird offbeat example, how do elephants or cats learn how to do whatever they have to do, right? It's by looking and learning, right? How do people pick up these mental models? By looking and learning around their seniors, right? And work from anywhere isn't going to actually give that, right? At least the process is going to be a little more elongated. And the fact is, remote work also doesn't mean you have to only work remotely, right? One of the lines in the playbook in my company is, I've actually, we've written saying, COVID lockdowns are off. So please don't think remote means you have to only sit inside your house. No, if you're all in one place like Bangalore, at least once a week, meet for coffee, yeah?
Yeah.
You're locked inside your house. There's no cop wielding his lathi at you, right? So, I mean, these are all interesting facets of the problem. And I believe horses for courses, right? So if there's a large company that believes, yeah, things are not working, well, it's direct feedback, right? Why isn't anybody taking that as feedback, saying, hey, you know, there is more work for home happening than work from home happening, right? You need people calling it out. And if companies are calling back, well, yeah, you have the writing on the wall.
Okay.
I think we are done.
Yeah, I hope that answers Rita's question. And yeah, wonderful replies. That I think that was very well put together. In the end, it is business that is needed, whichever way it works out for the organization. So yeah, if anybody has any questions, please come up now. Otherwise, I think we sort of plan to wrap it up. No? Okay, all right. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here today, and thank you very much, Siddharth, for coming here and taking us through the insights that you. We'll look forward to your book. Do let us know when it is on the shelf. We'll all grab a copy of it and sort of read through from your expertise and experience. I hope you all had a wonderful evening. Siddharth, you want to put any last lines, last thoughts here?
That was a bouncer. I think it's a great idea for you to tell everyone to buy my book. I like that idea.
We'll definitely do that.
I support that idea. Yeah. With that idea, we should close the webinar. Okay.
Sure.
Thank you so
All
much.
right, sure. Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much,
Thank you.
everyone. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Thanks for the meeting. Thanks for
Bye.
Thank you.
You can stop recording. Yeah.
Yes, that
Hey, what is the
We
what's
need
the
the
book
book
name,
name,
please?
Siddharth.
Sorry?
Siddharth, we need the book name.
The book name, please.
No. I've almost just finalized. Ara, it's probably going to be called Unlocking Performance.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Dr. Naga. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Kuljit.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
So
you.